You heard the Benjamin St. Juste play being made on the way into the segment, though. He's an answer to this question pretty clearly. Phone lines open at 800-636-1067. Who do we think breaks out tonight? Who's going to have a big game for Washington?
So I'm going to start on the offensive side. If it happens, I could see this being that Noah Brown. How about this story? Noah Brown also at Ohio State, coming back to where he his roots. He was the highest touted recruiting member of the recruiting class of Urban Meyer's group that includes multiple NFL players, right? He could have a huge, huge, huge game if a lot of attention is being paid underneath to Ertz and Eckler and McLaurin and Brian Robinson and company. Maybe Noah Brown catches that home run ball. Maybe he gets loose in the secondary with a little freight train or a shimmy shingle and getting himself down the football field for a long touchdown. I could see Noah Brown having a big one.
Yeah, I could see that as well, because we saw at the very end of the second game of the season, his season debut, going back to the home game and the win against the Giants now on 8 days ago. Noah Brown became the guy that Jaden Daniels was confident in feeding on those inbreakers in the second half of the game. So why not go back to him with his size, especially if the Bengals' plan, like we've seen over the last couple of weeks, is to make sure that Terry McLaurin doesn't get going. If you're trying to take him away, which I think the Giants largely did, the only way he was really involved at all was underneath, at or around the line of scrimmage, behind the line of scrimmage, then that means someone should come free. And I think Noah Brown could be that guy, right? So, number one, I would say I'm with you on Noah Brown. Because I've already seen him start to emerge, I'll throw out a bit of a wild card. Where's Dami Brown been? We saw him have a couple of nice catches on screens early against the Giants, set up a first down. I think both of his grabs were on the first two drives of the game. Remember when Dami Brown was a big thing in the preseason? He was the most targeted player, the leader with catches in terms of their first-team offense. This is an annual tradition now, where he has these great training camps. He has these impressive preseasons. We're told this time's going to be different, and then the regular season starts and he doesn't really do much. There's really no reason for it this year. There's nobody that's been blocking him. And maybe he gets supplanted by Brown on the depth chart. But if they're going to line up and spread to help protect their offensive line a little bit, to help ID some things for Jaden Daniels so he knows where pressure's coming from, and they're going to screen people to death and throw the ball around the line of scrimmage, which Daniels has done at about a 4-to-1 rate over the average NFL quarterback on targets of wide receivers behind the line of scrimmage. How is Dami Brown not more involved? That is something that he does pretty well.
Yeah, I think you already said it. I think he's been supplanted already. I was trying to look up just now what his snap counts were from weeks 1 to weeks 2. And my guess is that, he's now at 63%, give or take, on the field, second to guys like McLaurin and company. But I bet you that's trending downwards where it comes to certain packages and, maybe 3 receiver looks of different kinds of varieties. A lot of these guys are interchangeable. But
don't you agree that with him, it takes one play to impact the game? I mean, he runs a lot of vertical stuff. He does, like he had the 75-yard touchdown catch in his breakout game that was never replicated again with Carson Wentz.
The game, yeah.
2 catches for 30-plus, 2 touchdowns. Like he doesn't have to run 40 plays. I mean, just do something. Where are you?
Yeah, I joke about this, but I sort of think there's some truth to it. I think he just has the rep as a deep threat because that's what he did at North Carolina. I don't know that he's actually that great of a deep threat. I think they probably think we've got a better version of that because, obviously you saw him in the preseason win vertically and make that great catch on the Jaden Daniels audible at the line. But I don't know. I don't know that they view him that way. Like the analogy I always use, and I know people are sick of it if they've ever listened to the show, but I'll never forget, I was running around the track upstairs during GW's basketball practice, and Tom Penders stopped the practice and said to this one guy, I don't know who told you you were a shooter, but shooters make shots. You're just a guy that takes shots. You have to do something else in order to play for me, right? And that's what I think of, where we just say Dami Brown's a deep threat. Well, I know he caught that deep pass that time, but maybe he's got to do better at other stuff. Maybe it's as a blocker. Maybe it's as a guy that you're talking about with some screens or some shorter things. He's got to improve that part of his game to maybe get on the field. I don't know. Just a thought.
I don't mean to pick on the analogy because I know, that's not the point, but I think it kind of makes my point. Shooting is not dependent. You just shoot and you make the shot or you don't. Mm-hmm. Dami Brown catching a deep pass takes so much. And I think that's where it's complicated, right?
Yeah, of course it is.
We don't know how often he gets open, how often he runs the perfect route, how often they should have thrown it to him and they elected not to, how often he's been open and was targeted and for whatever reason the ball didn't get there, how often he wasn't targeted. So I think the question's really good. I don't have a good answer for you. I think the point, though, and all that matters is it doesn't matter if he is or is not a deep threat if he's not catching passes. And we could say, is he good at it? Is he not at it? Maybe he's the best at it. When you have done it once ever, it doesn't really matter. You could be the best at something all you want to. They have not found a way for that to translate to games. But I'm not saying it has to be a home run. I just would like to see him do something tonight that benefits them, that helps them. Because, again, we heard something all offseason. He had this hour-long YouTube that he put out. The open of it is like Rick Snyder talking about him for like 15 seconds, and some production team made this like hour-long feature on him. There was just so much hype just a couple weeks ago. And now a guy who's been here for 3 hours who was cut by the Texans has moved ahead of him on the depth chart, and I'm watching Jamison Crowder and Olamide Zaccheaus, out-target him. I am curious where he is. The running backs have both broken out already, so you can't say that they're going to have a bigger night than they have in the case of Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler. Anybody else, though, outside of the two receivers you and I have chosen to say tonight could be the night? We've seen almost nothing from Ben Sinnott. He's mostly been used as a blocker. If Ertz is healthy, he's going to be featured. I think he'll be their leading targeted pass catcher, their leader in catches probably again tonight. The offense seems to go through him, especially down the field. But what about somebody else, Sinnott or otherwise?
Luke McCaffrey's the name that comes to mind, right? As a guy that we saw last week, hey, he's been open a bunch, and that's not anecdotal. That is according to next-gen stats and Pro Football Focus and people that chart these sorts of things. I bet you that the really smart folks that are running things here noticed that too, right? Whether it was a Daniels problem, a Kingsbury problem, whether it was a Tavita Pritchard, whoever along the line wasn't necessarily saying, hey, we should target this player. And I don't know if Daniels missed him 8 times. I don't know if we won't know, right?
Tavita
what the directive was.
Catching a straight.
I'm just saying we have no idea.
The old quarterbacks coach.
We have no idea if it was, hey, look for this. If it's not there, do X. We don't know. But I think that gets noticed when a guy is winning and doesn't get targeted, where you go, well, maybe we should target him sometimes, give him a chance because he is winning. He is doing what we're asking him to do, and we haven't gotten the football yet. Maybe that's an advantage. Maybe that's a way to open other things up as well. So that could be somebody that goes from having not much to a few targets.
Defensive side of the ball. Commanders, Bengals tonight. Given some thoughts on players that we think have a chance to break out for Washington, pending this matchup and based maybe on who's on the field on the other side of the ball. You can call us at 800-636-1067. You want to hop in on the MGM National Harbor listener lines. It's about time that John Allen or Daron Payne do something. Now, I am not going to sit here and pretend like they haven't been playing hard and playing well. They both got chipped a lot, doubled a lot last week. It seemed like the plan for the Giants was, let's not let Washington's interior rush beat us. Let's make their edges get home. And mostly, Cleveland Farrell, despite 2 sacks through 2 games, has not really mounted much of a pass rush at all. Both of those sacks were huge plays by Payne, where the quarterback kind of tried to avoid him and ran into Farrell. Haven't noticed Dante Fowler much. Jamin Davis wasn't even active last week, so clearly the edge has been a problem. But I do think it's time, and I don't mean like where you guys at as much as there's a number that they're going to get to, and it's kind of almost like a regression to the mean, positively in this case. I think it's time that we see a sack for Allen or Payne or a couple of big-time pressures, some TFLs. Like, those guys are playing at a decent enough level that being blanked on the stat sheet other than tackles just isn't going to sustain. So I would not be surprised at all if they combine tonight for like a sack and a half, couple TFLs. There's only a matter of time before they start to put up some numbers.
I would agree with that. Yeah, I mean, we always think about pass rush in terms of sacks and some of the quantifiable stats we've got now, but I always view it as waves crashing on the shore. It's not one wave that made the sand erode, right? It's not one wave that got rid of the beach town. It's that constant pressure, that process of pressure that eventually leads to the good results, right? And there were years, and I point this out all the bleeping time, especially when it comes to John Allen. Every metric other than sacks, he had a great season. Ended up, I think it was 2.5 sacks one year. And everyone went, what's wrong with John Allen? And I said, beat this drum. if you replay that season with those same metrics, he would have 8 or 9 sacks, and he had 9 sacks the following season because that's who he is. We're in that valley moment right now for him, right? Where he's going to keep crashing on the shore. He'll have his 2-sack game. He'll have his 1.5 and a TFL and, a pass batted down, something like that. Too good of a player not to make an impact. And they haven't made a statistical counting impact yet. But we're talking about Allen and Payne. I do think that's coming. And I hope it's tonight.
Yeah, the metrics you're referencing are like the precursors, right? Like in baseball, if you're not allowed to see someone's home runs, the best thing you could probably do is to say, okay, I want to look at their exit velocity and launch angles.
Yeah, give me a hard hit percentage, launch angle, everything else. And I bet you eventually this dude homers.
How often do you hit a rocket in the air? I got a pretty good way now to determine how many home runs you have. And I'm not going to get it to the number, obviously, but you can get in the vicinity. And when you look at Allen and Payne, their pass rush win rates are really good even this year. Last week, the story was, man, the Giants really paid a lot of attention to these guys. I don't know if that's an Allen or Payne thing or if that's an NFL thing. I think teams are getting smarter. We've talked so much about the changes in the league over the first couple of weeks, although it did seem like yesterday that things opened up a little bit.
Yeah, numbers got back up a little bit.
We had 4 300-yard passers. I think we had 8 or 9 guys go for 250 or more through the air. So it was definitely a more traditional passing weekend around the Having said that, I do think on the other side with like D tackles, if I'm a coordinator calling plays, right now I'm probably prioritizing keeping everything clean in front of my quarterback on the interior than the edges, because quarterbacks are getting so athletic. So many of them can run. So many of them can get out of the pocket. There's only a few guys that are immobile and you know where they're going to be all the time. I can run away from that pressure that comes from the side. When you come right at me, my first step is backwards. Now I'm panicking in the pocket and doing my, breaking down. And next thing you know, I'm getting swallowed up like a surfer in a wave, right? I think that's what happened with the Giants. Maybe it's that they just thought Allen and Payne are so much better than everyone else, we got to pay them attention. There's probably some of it, because that's definitely the strength of Washington's defense. But I really do think this is something that's going to happen every week. It's just the way the league is trending.
Yeah, I mean, you could pick your sport. Let's try not to let the best player beat us. That's pretty tried and true. That's the thing. We're always trying to look that way. So if I'm an offensive coordinator, I don't know if John Allen and Daron Payne are as good as, you could pick Dexter Lawrence or, how good Aaron Donald was or a number of those guys. And that's not the point. The point is they're better than Cleveland Farrell. They're better than Dante Fowler. They're better than Javonte Jean-Baptiste. So that's where I'll focus my attention, right? If I've got to have a plan where I need to caution against something, that's who I'm going to take care of first and second. 1 and 1A are those two guys. Once that's done, I'll leave someone on an island against Jean-Baptiste. I'll leave someone on an island against Jamin Davis if he's active, right? I mean, to me, this is pretty standard, and I'm with you. I think we're going to expect it all season long.
We're live all over D.C. on 106.7. We're live in Richmond on AM 910, FM 105.1. Of course, wherever you're at on the Odyssey app, and you can stream our show on video, even out on the road, as we're at Thom's Watch Bar here. We are streaming on YouTube on the 106.7 The Fan YouTube channel. I'm looking in the YouTube chat here. First of all, somebody loves your shirt, Danny.
Yes.
That is the old John Allen on the Junkies, tired of this bleep shirt,
yes.
right?
Yes, it is.
Million, though, on the YouTube chat says, Allen and Payne need to disrupt Joe Burrow tonight, need to disrupt the Bengals. They just can't keep saying we're getting double-teamed. Find a way. There's something to that.
I agree with that.
It's
a little bit tough guy talk, but at the same time, sorry.
That's what I struggle with, though. I hate the tough guy routine. I hate that shtick because it's not an excuse. It is a reason. It is not an excuse. It is an explanation. They're not TJ Watt. I'm sorry. They're not Myles Garrett. So if your retort is, well, TJ Watt and Myles Garrett get doubled. Yeah, they're the best in the world. They win DPOY awards. These guys don't. They're just Pro Bowlers. They're just pretty good. They're just very, very solid. But I also get that from a fan where you're going, hey, man, I'm sorry about the occasional double team that you deal with as a several $1 million a year player who's the best player on my team. But I lose if you can't do more, so I need you to find a way to do more.
Yeah, and I don't think the expectation is 3 sacks a week. Nobody's saying set an all-time record, but you can't have 0.
Hit someone, hit a quarterback.
Yeah, where's my tip pass? You get double teamed, where are 2 paws in the air? Daron Payne won them a game last year doing that thing against Atlanta. They probably should lose if he doesn't get his right pinky on a football for an interception at the goal line. Right? My point is, where is my impact at all? I'm with that. So I know, again, I can't stand the the sentiment behind you make $20 million a year, dominate. Okay, I understand why we're not getting that, but at the same time, you make $20 million a year, man. You got to do something. Give me some impact.
If the point is, I'd like to notice you, right? I'd like to see you change the game on one play. Doesn't have to be a pick, doesn't have to be a sack fumble, but you should be able to end a drive with a pressure where you're at Burrow's feet and he rushes and he throws an incompletion. That doesn't look like a big deal, but you force the punt. Like, give me one or two of those. Just be present and make it loud. Be part of the equation. They definitely need those guys to do that tonight.